My book, The Filtered Real Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, is really catapulting off the work of 2018 to give you a picture of what this decade has been like. And what really makes the work part of an element, where I could say it's an element of hip hop, is really the creative poetry and prose that I started to inject into the regular writing on the details of the music and the stories of the music. And throughout The Filtered Real, it's not a main focus. These essays are mainly about the science of this music, but throughout, this poetry and prose is throughout. And I want to read you something that is exclusively in this book. You know what I mean? It's for what I thought was the best record of 2018. An example of the stellar career that Ka has had. His album called under the name The Hermit and the Recluse, which is him and Animos, the producer, and called Orpheus versus the Sirens. But it's a long prose that I wrote that went along with this piece, and I called it The Places, the Horrors, the Leaders. The places, the horrors, the leaders. The recluse folds in his sound to drown the world in a melody. The hermit pens another pensive text, poetry or prose. How long depends all on how we hold the notes of sorrow, or how the aphorism be followed, by beauty's dress or by understanding's golden shade. The hermit closes the windows and shuts the door to form this metamorphosis, shuts out this world as he wills a learning to incline demise into the comforts of tomorrow's world. For the babies are the greatest, as we were just the latest. Our motions are their latency, so the crimes cannot be forgotten. They will be arrested on the page, the recluse forges. An orchestration of his mind's breaks for the space of what was done to now be part of the tales of what is made. Son of man stories, revolving from scroll to suckling foal. Stampede the foal to a standing soul, the rebirth of mind. The place is in the mind, and the mind is in the skull of Brownsville concrete, where the worst have developed the palate to be special, all scarred with the mathematics of rolled vice. A dive for your thoughts. The places, the horrors, the leaders. Those of the Tao are ready to mourn, for the sheath will cradle sharpness for the last time today, and the fear of death has become a lost gift to give the children someday. When the streets have sidewalks, the luck embracing stave off pitching and snitching and study the history of our future. We founders of our fortunateness remember reading stills of smirks and snoots with shots of colonial rum and revolution cigars. Fidel versus the infidels of assets. Hannibal upon his elephants, or Clemente flown into the waters of honor by the phoenix. Ushiba at his revelations, or Genghis firing into continuity. Wondering, writing one's own history, how the Confucian ammunition seems to load forever, or that the champagnes of Che never seem to pour. If the recluse will absolve it all, then who will orchestrate to his mind's breaks? Breaks he told an old historian once, a hermit of letters himself, the ones that were all Melvin Blissing, enablers of educators, the makers of lettered roads. May the drum of this recluse pound out a talk from the hermit, and these horrors that color the spaces between cobblestones will become the grip to grind the steps of a hermit traveling in papers. The places, the horrors, the leaders. The table is interrupted by meals, sustenance that forces the constantly invading literature to ghetto itself. The chair, worn by the weight of manifested thoughts, has its legs wobble when the leader sips smooth excitement. As San Mateo Yerba Mate sits as safely as can buy, the literature with its grounds, once steeped, now curling to the cup's bottom. Word is bond. This last maneuver will be the greatest. So remember in perfection the ways chosen by those once sought upon in the scrolled leaves by authors gone. That is, hermits prior. The best knower is never not a hermit dispelling his heart into the lands of children. The heart, an overflowing vessel built of care, filled with the essential air-like materials and needing to infect the world with its ado. Be it insight, so it be out of mind, as the God has built the self-savior. Leaving his confine, the leader, as sun is, sets to maneuvers, So consistent, its pleasantry and intensity just may be forgotten. Finally, step outside once the weapons of a written window are wrote. Warriors compile. They all can peer the way now. All so simple, swinging a freelance soul stenciled in an edutained stance. He only shares an ethic he lives. Yeah, that was a piece for that last essay that was up in that major group of the Reel of 2018. That's exclusively in the book, and I focus. These pieces that I write about, these albums, the more I love them, the more that they spark more ideas, though. And Ka's work is stellar to me.